Welcome to Your Future in Sales and Marketing, a podcast that helps you make great career decisions to get the most out of your career journey. We'll introduce you to the AXR network of established senior leaders and a handpicked group of future aspiring leaders who have it all in front of them. You'll learn what it's like in the top job and how to get there. Your hosts from AXR's specialist sales and marketing recruitment team will also land bonus episodes for you on how to work with recruiters, write a resume, and smash an interview, as well as our very popular market updates. It's the podcast that has it all. You can't get this career advice anywhere else.
Welcome to our How-To series on AXR Pod, available on both of our channels, Your Future in Sales and Marketing and Go to CFO. My name is Mike Dixon, a specialist sales and marketing recruiter. Today I'm jobbing Nick Constain, a specialist from our accounting and finance recruitment practice. Welcome, Nick. How are you?
Doing great. Thank you. How are you?
I'm really well, thanks. First time you and I have been in the pod together, Nick.
Yeah.
Got both the podcast channels and specialisms represented, and I think a really cool topic. So our purpose at AXR is to enable you guys as listeners to make great career decisions. The How-To Pod series gives you all the practical tips you need on how to build a killer resume, nail an interview, negotiate a salary increase, manage a job offer, resign with pride, and lots more, as they say. Today, we're going to explore how to get promoted. So the next sort of 50 minutes or so, you're going to learn exactly what you got to do and how to do it. So, Nick, let's get into it. Everything in life starts with a plan, but a career plan can be tough because not many people have the knowledge of what a career looks like. And that's what we do at AXR, to help people understand what a career looks like. But how do you gather that kind of insight? And what should be in a career plan to start with?
Yeah, I find it fascinating that, most people will go through their career without an actual structure, an idea of how to run or plan for their career. You ask them about a holiday, they have it planned to the T, and then ultimately you ask them about their career and they often are driven by either title or money and will skip steps that we find as essential to actually round out their skill set.
Yeah. I think I say it, isn't it? You kind of, if you focus on the steps via titles, you miss the experiences. And the plan should be, what experience do I need in order to make myself really competitive for what I want to do next?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I have this conversation daily interviewing CFOs, and the conversation I always ask the question is, what do you think you're missing to be CFO? And then can we identify an opportunity that's going to give you that opportunity? So let's make a roadmap to get you to CFO.
Yeah. So simply, if you've got a plan, start with a goal and then think about the experiences you need in order to start achieving those goals. So I think that's a great start point on planning. But today we're going to talk about how to get promoted, but you have to start with a plan. So how do you use that plan to maximize your chance for promotion, Nick?
I think it's important to vocalize that plan. And I would go to the obvious is, a career mentor, but I would go as far as going to your manager, the HR director, and really outlining what you want to accomplish. And then asking them the question, how do I align my vision with your vision for me? And what can I do to achieve the goals that I want? And I think harmonizing a plan between the two is really the key to having a successful pathway for a promotion.
Agreed. Because if you're vocalizing the plan, what you're doing is bringing everybody else in with you, and they're then part of the team in helping you achieve it. But if you make it too selfish and it's all about me, then you're actually pushing people away. So I think I like what you said there in terms of actually make sense in terms of the organization and the stakeholders that you're talking to. If there's something in it for them too, you're a success, then actually everyone wins.
Absolutely. And when you learn to realize that, it's something greater than yourself and you want to contribute to that something, and you get everybody on board, it almost naturally happens because your leader also will have that same mentality and will be really keen to get you up to speed.
Yeah. Nobody owns your career, you do.
Correct.
Yeah, and that's a common thing we've heard through the podcast over the years is that it's not up to your manager, your HR person. They can guide you, but you've got to let them in. But if you just keep the goals to yourself, then no one's going to know what you're aiming for. So I think that's critically important.
Yeah, and I think I would add that it's probably beneficial to be able to measure that success. So being very clear, but not in theory, and being very concise with what or how you're going to measure the success. I think that also gives a clear pathway as to be able to look back and say, look at all of the things that we've accomplished together. And then therefore the conversation is much more simple.
Okay. Often I've heard when talking to senior leaders, that's great, but don't forget to perform in your role. You've got to nail it. You've got to be good in order to get ahead. So, focus on the future, have a plan, but, you've got to do it today as well. But what's more important, performance or attitude?
I've always said this. You can't teach someone to wake up in the morning and have the get up and go. Technical skills, from an accounting perspective could be taught. And I truly believe that attitude trumps anything in terms of technical ability. I would 10 out of 10 hire someone with a great attitude and maybe less skill set than someone who's brilliant but has a poor attitude.
Agreed. So attitude trumps performance. Absolutely. You've got to do both, but the person who's got the best attitude typically will get promoted against the high performer with a poor attitude.
Absolutely.
What does a great attitude look like? Because it has to be visible. It has to you have to, if you're being measured by attitude, what does that look like?
Yeah. And it's an interesting topic, post-COVID, because I think, we talk about the work from home flexibility. And I started my career where that would never be a thing. And I learned through osmosis. And I feel that, the small chatter and the comments and the questions that maybe even your peers are asking are really valuable. And I think working from home has diminished that kind of peripheral learning. And I think that also reduces your visibility within the organization. And I think ultimately, if you're not putting your hand up and saying, I'll do that, or I want to, really go for it and kind of, look to help other people within the team or your superiors. I think it's just the best way is just to be there and to be present and to always be keen to just give it a try.
It's like, get your head up, not down. And if you're up and present and connecting with people and putting your hand up for everything, within reason, then it's really hard to do that from home. And I don't, this is not a part about working from home or not, but it's a thing, right? Because, we are existing in a world where flexibility is important. There's a general trend to come back to the office. But if you're hanging on to, I want to be in the office max 1 or 2 days a week, then is that showing the attitude that is going to get you ahead of somebody who's, even if you're performing at a great level, but actually you're not making connections, your learning's perhaps dulled. I think it's that kind of flexibility can overshadow the drive and ambition that is the most important thing in actually getting promoted.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I think, one of the things I hear often is, you want to be able to tell people or present your ideas. And often people will hesitate the phone call because they don't want to bother their boss. But if they're sitting right next to you and you go, hey, Mike, what do you think about this? Oh, that's a great idea. Let's work on that, or can we talk about that? Yeah, I think that's a really good opportunity.
Yeah, it's the mini moments, I think. Yeah. And look, this podcast is not telling you to go to work 5 days a week, but it's certainly saying be there more than you're not. And that will demonstrate the right attitude. What else can you do to show the business you're ready?
I think the most important factor that's been beneficial to me personally and to others that I've seen is a title is a formality, but your actions are who you are as a person. And I think showing up and providing, or giving guidance to maybe more junior staff, even though that's not your remit, you're not technically the manager, but if that's something you're striving for, get involved in training, put your hand up for running, workshops or leading some form of, either formal or informal training. I think acting like the leader and thinking like the leader or how you would want your manager would be thinking is really important.
Mindset is critical. And I think if you take a step back and up all the time in terms of actually looking at what is the thing I'm doing, how does that contribute to what the business is trying to achieve? If you're constantly making those connections, you'll start to talk differently and think differently and come out differently in meetings, in your conversations with your peers, with your customers, with your stakeholders, because you're always looping it back to the business agenda as opposed to just a function of what you're doing, even if that's what you're paid to do. If you can ladder it back up, then you are demonstrating more of an enterprise mindset, and that's going to help get you ahead.
Yeah, it goes back to harmonizing the vision between yourself as an individual and the organization.
Great. Now, it doesn't always work. So the best will in the world, sometimes you don't get the promotion. And often when we get a phone call on the back of that saying, I'm out, this is no good. And that's not the way to react.
Yeah, it's so common. I mean, we see it daily almost, I think it's really important just to step back and objectively look at it and remove the emotions from it, which is very challenging to do. But I think a few steps to take would be sit down with the manager and get a very clear understanding of where you have fallen short. And then create an action plan with that individual to address those challenges that they've perceived. And the best promotion you can ever get is one that you didn't get and you proved them that you could do it.
Great piece of advice. And it actually wraps up really nicely. It comes back to what the experiences you need to get the next step in terms of that plan. So seek what you're missing in terms of feedback and then go and get those experiences. But the resilience that shows and the ability to kind of ask for feedback, that's the attitude piece.
Correct.
Come to life completely there.
100%. And I think people, the way you respond to rejection, either in promotion or loss of sale or whatever it could be, it really defines how you react to things. I think it's really important to be able to, not what's happened, but how you react to what's happened to you is almost even more important. Going back to the attitude comment, I guess.
Absolutely. So guys, we've covered a lot in a short space of time. I think there's some really interesting content there. It will help you on plan and show up in the right way to ensure you're doing everything you can to create the experiences and the profile to get promoted. So that's from me, Mike Dixon.
Nick Constain.
At AXR Recruitment and Search, you now know how to get promoted.
Thank you very much.
We hope you enjoyed today's podcast from AXR Recruitment and Search. We're passionate about helping you get the most out of your sales and marketing career. Keep listening as we bring you more career insights and advice from Australia's inspiring sales and marketing leaders. See you next time on Your Future in Sales and Marketing.